Good evening, and I'd like to welcome you and call to order our Lucan Biddulph Council meeting for Tuesday, September the 16th. I would like to acknowledge that I am an ally of Indigenous peoples. The Township of Lucan Biddulph is located on the treaty and traditional territory and ancestral lands of many Indigenous peoples and is covered by several Upper Canada treaties. We honor and respect the history, languages, and cultures of the diverse Indigenous peoples who call Lucan Biddulph home. We endeavor to unlearn colonial mindsets and practices and to grow in knowledge. As we build meaningful relationships, we recognize contributions of Indigenous peoples and respect their leadership and partnership in shaping and strengthening our community. We acknowledge historic and ongoing injustices that Indigenous peoples endure in Canada, and we affirm our commitment to honoring Indigenous voices, nations, and cultures, and to moving forward in the spirit of reconciliation and respect. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Okay. So as we are all aware, September 30th has been declared by the federal government the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, also known as Orange Shirt Day. And I'm wearing mine tonight as this is our last council meeting before the 30th. Next week is Truth and Reconciliation Week. The National Center for Truth and Reconciliation will be hosting lunch and learn sessions all next week, and it is easy to sign up for them and participate. All you need to do is visit their website for more information. Our staff is in the process of developing an education session that our staff will be participating in on the 30th. And I hope that you will take some time to determine how you will recognize Orange Shirt Day. This day allows us the opportunity to recognize the heritage, cultures, and contributions of Indigenous peoples, as well as recognizing what true reconciliation means and opening ourselves up for a truthful and inclusive dialogue. In doing so, we honor those that have been lost and recognize that the Canada of today will strengthen all that unites us. We do this acknowledging a painful past and will look forward to a future with hope and a commitment of reconciliation. As a settler, the acts of truth and reconciliation can seem very daunting, and we ask ourselves, what is my role and what can I do? At least I ask myself these questions. And for me, it all comes down to education and asking those questions. There are simple things that you can do to engage in truth and reconciliation. You can familiarize yourself with the Truth and Reconciliation Report. Learn more about Indigenous history and the residential school system. Our library system and the many online resources available are there to help you. Learn about the territories that you may pass through or live on. And this is likely the simplest thing that we can do, to acknowledge the lands that our country is built on and that they have histories of their own. And observing those histories will tie us all together. Municipalities are on the front lines of community building, and we must recognize that reconciliation is not a one-time event. It's a long-term commitment and something that we must revisit regularly. Success lies in humility, consistent effort, and partnership with Indigenous peoples rooted in mutual respect and shared goals. So we do not need to go into closed session tonight, but we do have a public meeting for planning. And at this point, I would ask for a mover and a seconder to adjourn our council meeting at 4 minutes after 6 in order to sit as the Committee of Adjustment under the Planning Act. Councillor Regan and Councillor Westman. All in favor? And that's carried. So we can be considered to be sitting as a Committee of Adjustment. In front of us tonight is a consent application for properties on Richmond Street. And at this point, I believe I'm going to turn it over to Alyssa. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair. The applicant is proposing to sever a lot from the property to separate the existing businesses. The proposed retained parcel would have a frontage of 64 meters along Richmond Street in an area of 3,302.6 square meters. The severed parcel would have a frontage of 37.5 meters along Richmond Street in an area of 1,976.5 square meters. A second consent application has been included to provide an easement for stormwater drainage in favor of 33385 Richmond Street onto 33389 Richmond Street as it is currently existing. The applicant has applied for a concurrent minor variance to recognize a reduced minimum lot area, lot frontage, and minimum side yard width as a result of the consent applications. The subject property as a whole is 5,279 square meters in size, situated on the southeast corner of the intersection at Sainsbury Line and Richmond Street. The lands are municipally known as 33385 and 33389 Richmond Street. Surrounding land uses include highway commercial uses to the north and low-density residential in all other directions. The property is designated settlement area in the County of Middlesex official plan. It is designated highway commercial in the Township of Lucan Biddulph's official plan, and it is also currently zoned site-specific highway commercial C2-4 in the comprehensive zoning bylaw. This severance has been previously discussed in the past, although there were some concerns from MTO regarding access onto Richmond Street in between the existing businesses. The property owner has had more recent conversations with MTO and has agreed to comply with their conditions for the approval of the consent. No comments were provided by the public. Middlesex County Emergency Services provided comments regarding 911 addressing. The Asable Bayfield Conservation Authority commented that they do not oppose the approval of the requested consents and minor variance. The building department has requested a site plan as part of the conditions to review. And the Public Works Department has noted that the current stormwater drainage and overland flow route needs to be maintained. As identified in the planning report, staff are of the opinion that this proposal is consistent with the PPS and conforms with both the county and township official plans. Additionally, the minor variances requested meet the 4 tests of the Planning Act. And given the above, I'm recommending approval of the consent applications B10 to 11, 2025, subject to the conditions provided in the report, and minor variance application A7-2025. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Alyssa. At this point, I'll give the applicant an opportunity to say something. And is there anybody from the public that wants to say something? And then I will open it up to the committee for questions. Any questions from the committee? Councillor Hodgins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thanks for the report. No big objections or concerns, but I just wanted to ask about that stormwater easement or just get a bit more clarity around what that is. Is that just surface drainage, or are there structures there? Or what's the purpose of that stormwater easement at the back?
Through the chair, so that has to do with the overland flow of the water running through what will now be one property to the other out to Sainsbury Line. So that's just ensuring that that's maintained and not obstructed in any way through the consent of the creation of the consent.
Okay, thank you for that. And then, yeah, just a question about the future access, because one of those driveways would typically be used by vehicles. I think leaving the drive-through, they'd go out that way, but it looks like that might be modified in the future. So just with the traffic using the drive-through, they'll be directed through the site internally then? And are there any modifications that have to be done through that to address that?
Through the chair, both properties would be using the accesses that are proposed for the site. So the chiropractor would be using that one off of Richmond Street, and both other accesses on the retained lot for the Tim Hortons would still be maintained. So the one on Richmond Street and Sainsbury Line. The traffic, I believe, could exit the property on either of those accesses that are remaining.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Regan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So if I may, thank you for the report. No objections to this, but I was just wondering about the MTO comments, because I just see that there was an edit to this that the MTO requirements have to be made, but I'm just wondering about the timeline of the MTO and when will those comments come, and if they do come or when they come, how would that affect us moving forward for the resident?
Through the chair. Yeah, so the public notice was provided a couple weeks ago, and that timeline on our side has technically ended. But the MTO is in conversation with the property owners, and they are dealing with their own permit kind of process for that. So when those comments do come in, they will be notified of that, and that will be what they're subject to as part of that approval process.
Okay. Deputy Mayor.
After it's done then and completed, then how does that work for roll numbers and impact? And then when that's done, does staff just notify like with that new creation? Just curious how that works.
Through the chair to the deputy mayor. So what would typically happen is impact would get notification of the severance. They would apply a new roll number and everything gets severed at that point in time. So that's the process.
Value then of the properties get
Correct.
evaluated at that time by impact or is in their queue to do it.
That's their responsibility. Yes.
Responsibility.
Any other questions? I just want to go back to the access and the entryways. So the one will remain on 33385, like the which is now the chiropractor office. And then, so the Tim Hortons property, they'll still have the two accesses. Is there going to be, and maybe these are the conversations that the applicant's having with MTO, is there to be a delineation between the two properties? Because to Councillor Hodgins' point, if the traffic's coming out of the drive-through, you know, if there's nothing there, then they'll just use the chiropractor driveway. And if they're being rerouted, I have to say I have some concerns about them using the one on Richmond and Highway 4. Essentially, now you're that much closer to the intersection. And if that's the only one, you're going to have a lot more left turning coming out of Tim's, which I don't know anything, but I would think that that might create more danger than perhaps leaving the chiropractor entrance open and making adjustments to that one. So, but I'm assuming those are the conversations that the applicant's having with MTO that we're not part of. Anybody?
Yeah, so through the chair, maybe I can jump in. I do have a little bit more history on this one. So in this particular consent application, I think started what, 2.5 years ago or so, with the municipality doing pre-consultation and identifying, you know, this is on an MTO right of way. They do have rights to control access onto Richmond Street. So we wanted to understand what the limitations would be in terms of a severance at that time. We did go back and forth a number of times with them. I know the applicant as well has gone back and forth several times with them. We did get direction from MTO as to what they would seek in terms of conditions of a severance. And they essentially, I think, gave the applicant two options as to how they could proceed. One would be to close the access on Richmond Street. That's the closer one to the intersection. And then consolidate a shared access point out further away from that existing intersection. The second option was to maintain that all the accesses as they currently are on Richmond Street, but to restrict access between the two parcels. So you would not be able to get from the Tim Hortons side to the chiropractic side and vice versa. So that's kind of what we're seeing on the proposed draft plan is bollards in place to restrict that access between the two. But with that said, you know, conversations obviously are still ongoing with MTO. It's up to their jurisdiction in this case as to how they want to proceed with that. And that's why we just kind of left that boilerplate condition on there to give the flexibility to determine the best way forward.
Okay. And so with that though, then we don't have any input into what we would like for that site? Like maybe I'm the only one, maybe I'm the only one that thinks everybody coming in off that entrance or going out of that entrance and turning left is dangerous. I don't know. But we essentially that's for the applicant and MTO to work out. If we go ahead and approve this, then it'll be between the applicant and MTO.
So yes, that's correct. As the road authority, they would have the ability to determine how and if not to grant access, essentially. So every new parcel would be required to apply for a new access entrance permit from MTO, and they control that process. But I think in terms of their own review of the application, their thought process is that most cars will just use the Sainsbury access in and out because of the concerns with how long it could take to make a left if you're traveling south back into Lucan.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
I do.
Oh.
I do.
No, so Regan, I
Thank
can
you.
tell.
So I'm just a little, so with what Madam Mayor is saying, so that's, are they going to be doing the MTU? I'm imagining going to be doing some sort of study, because now we're talking about safety, because I agree with the, I mean, it's right close to an intersection and it gets very, very busy. And I'm just wondering, just for the sake of just us knowing, because it sounds to me like we're not going to have a say, you know, and again, I'm supportive of this, but I'm just saying, I'm just a little concerned about the traffic flow and the rate. And if that place gets really busy, chiropractor is busy. I'm just wondering how that stays, or a study, is there something that can be brought back? We're going to have, like, you know, we're representing the township here. So I'm just wondering in public safety. So I'm just wondering, you know, I know it's not your fault, but why, but are we going to be able to have a say in this? Like, I really think that, you know, we should, but I don't know. Like,
Yeah, so through the chair, what I would say to that is certainly the township through Public Works Engineering and Planning can converse with the Ministry of Transportation on the chosen option by the applicant. I think even from our perspective, we have a preference as to what we would like to see. And it wouldn't be the access closest to the Richmond Street intersection, honestly. But at the end of the day, they are the road authority. It's up to them to determine.
Okay. All right. Any other final comments from the committee? So there's a number of recommendations associated with this application. And I'm not going to read them because they are quite lengthy. A reminder to anybody watching, the recommendation with the conditions can be found on our agenda. And I'll just remind the committee that on the first recommendation, and that's the application for consent, and that's the one, the recommendation is that it be granted. When the agenda was initially published, there was only 12 conditions, but then the 13th has been added, and that is the one that references the requirements of MTO be satisfied. So I'll just remind council of that. So the first motion is that the application for consent B-10-2025 filed by Patty Smith on behalf of Her Don Joe Inc. in order to sever a lot from the existing property legally described as, I never know what this stands for, but at Con SLR Part Lot 7 in the Township of Lucan Biddulph, County of Middlesex, be granted. And of course, it's subject to the 13 conditions, which I'm not going to read. And of course, Alyssa has explained her reasoning behind that. If I can get a mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Westman and Deputy Mayor Manders, all in favor? And that's carried. So then the second one, and again, just a reminder that there was initially 6 conditions, and then the 7th was added, and that reflects the storm water flow be maintained between the 2 properties. So that motion is, and that application for consent B-11/2025 filed by Patty Smith on behalf of Her Don Joe Inc. in order to permit an easement for stormwater drainage in favor of 33385 Richmond Street onto 33389 Richmond Street, as it is currently existing for the property legally described as CON SLR Part Lot 7 in the Township of Lucan Biddulph, County of Middlesex, be granted, and subject to the 6 conditions that can be found on the agenda and the reasoning behind as Alyssa spelled out. A mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Hodgins and Councillor Regan. All in favor? And that is carried. And the third motion is that the application for this is for the minor variance, for minor variance A-7/2025 filed by Patty Smith on behalf of Her Don Joe Inc. for relief from the Township of Lucan Biddulph Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw to permit a reduced minimum lot area and minimum side yard width as a result of the consent application for a property legally described as CON SLR Part Lot 7 in the Township of Lucan Biddulph, County of Middlesex be granted, and the reasons as Alyssa shared. Mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Westman and Councillor Hodgins. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. And now a motion to rise from the Committee of Adjustment at 22 minutes after 6. And we're going to move into a public meeting under the Planning Act. A mover and a seconder, please. Deputy Mayor Manders and Councillor Regan. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. So in front of us tonight is a zoning bylaw amendment application for a property on Heenan Court. And Alyssa, over to you again.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose and effect of the zoning bylaw amendment application before council is to amend the zoning to recognize a public garage as an additional permitted use. The subject property is a 1.3 acre lot situated on the east side of Heenan Court and north of Fallon Drive. The property is connected to municipal water and sanitary services, containing an existing commercial rental building with 4 units. Surrounding land uses are general industrial on all sides, with the Lucan sewage treatment plant to the west. The applicants rent out the units of the commercial building to various businesses, and there's been an uptake in interest for public garage use to repair and service motor vehicles. Therefore, the applicant is proposing to add public garage as a permitted use through the site-specific zoning to allow for businesses to establish themselves in this location. The lands are designated agricultural area in the county official plan and designated industrial in the Lucan Biddulph official plan. It is currently zoned as general industrial M1 zone according to the township comprehensive zoning bylaw. The Asable Bayfield Conservation Authority has commented that they do not oppose the approval of the requested zoning bylaw amendment. The Lucan Biddulph Building Division has noted that they have no objection to the zoning, and they've provided some comments about building permit requirements. No comments were provided by the public prior to the development of this report. This application has been reviewed against the provincial planning statement, county official plan, and the township's official plan. The request to add a public garage to the property zoning can be considered an appropriate industrial use, which will support future businesses while maintaining compatibility with surrounding properties. Given the above, I am satisfied that this application is consistent with the PPS and conforms with both the county and township official plans. Therefore, I am recommending approval of the zoning bylaw amendment and that the bylaw be brought forward for consideration of council. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Alyssa. At this time, did the applicant have anything to say? No. Okay, thanks. At this point, I will ask if there's any members of the public that have a comment. Okay, if you want to make your way to the microphone. Yeah, thanks. Good night. And we just need your name and do the address and your address. Yes.
All new technology to me, remember? My name's Tony Gertz. I own the property right across the road at 10:05. I don't even know, 10:15, thanks. That's how often I go there. I have only one question, and I would like to expand the definition of public garage. What does that mean? Does that mean like a car park? Does that mean like a service station for heavy trucks, for farm equipment? What is public garage?
Through the chair, I can read the definition to you. Believe it's in here. So a public garage is defined as shall mean a building, structure, building or structure where motor vehicles are kept or stored for remuneration or repair, including the repair of motor vehicle bodies, frames, or motors, and the painting, upholstering, washing, and cleaning of such vehicles, and may include a motor vehicle service establishment.
Okay, that leads me to my next question. Since we have, or should not we, there are 4 buildings already located there that are virtually identical. Is there any merit, instead of trying to rezone one building, that they just added on to the zoning for the industrial park and everybody's done in one swoop? Tom gets his other building covered, the other 2 buildings across the road, it doesn't make any sense why that was not included in the very first place.
Through the chair, yes, you're correct that this public garage use is not currently permitted under that parent zoning for those industrial lots. So right now, the only way to do that would be through the site-specific zoning, which only pertains to one property at a time. If this is something that is becoming more of a bigger deal and is something that the township would like to do, that would be something that could be done through a housekeeping amendment to kind of look at the parent zone and see if that permitted use should be added for all properties at a later time.
I would think this would be a good time to look at that, because when I've looked at all the permitted uses before, it's been very scattered, it's been very general. And the only time anything really got looked at was when somebody came up and tried to do something new, as in a fitness center in a boat workshop. Right? That's when things had to be looked at, so I'm thinking it might be a good time to review that. Other than that, I have no concerns about
Well,
the
certainly,
application.
we appreciate your comments and we'll take them to note. And as it turns out, staff is working actually on looking at the zoning designations across the municipality for this very reason. So, because there's a number of properties across town, across the municipality that need to be updated with their zoning. So this could very well fall within that. Ron?
Through the chair, I'd just like to make a comment. So Tony, absolutely, we've heard this, we've been discussing this, but there's an order of operation that we go through. The official plan, I'm sick and tired of hearing the official plan, but we're getting to the end. We hope to get approval for our official plan update on October the 20th. So that's the official plan. So that's kind of like the map of Canada. Then you've got the map of Ontario, which would be our zoning bylaw. So we have to get that one, the big one, done first, get it approved. Then we do the lower tier one, which is the zoning bylaw. So we've had many discussions here because we have run into issues. But this is a timing issue. They want it now, and that's why we're doing it site specific now, so they can move forward. We're not holding them up. But we are looking at loosening sounds negative, but we're trying to lessen the restrictions within the industrial area, and not only in the industrial area, but we're looking at other areas as well, commercial. You know, we don't want to be so restrictive that every time it doesn't meet the actual definition, we have to go through a rezoning process. So we're looking at sort of being a little more, what's the word, malleable, I guess, when we're dealing with these kinds of things. So yes, we are dealing with it. It's just a timing thing. We have to do this now because they're in a time crunch.
I appreciate that. It was a good time to bring up the question. I'm happy that council is looking that way, because it's what we need as a community and the development. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments from the public? Okay, questions or comments from council? Councillor Hodgins.
Thanks, Madam Mayor, through you. Wanted to ask about the agency comments. The building division provided some comments about building permit being required for the fit up, existing fire separations not adequate for repair garage, and then an oil interceptor is required. And just wanted to confirm through this process, has the applicant been made aware of those comments prior to this stage or early on in the application process? Are they aware of those building requirements for this use?
Through the chair, they've been provided through this public circulation, and then I'm not sure if they've started the building permit process with the building department, but they would be made aware of those comments when it came to.
Okay, thank you for that, Alyssa. And just the second question, or if it is going to be used as a public garage, I'm just wondering about adequacy of parking or staging for vehicles that might be using that garage that might come with that use. So is there sufficient parking available for that use? Or if not, how would that be addressed? Would that be addressed through the building permit stage later on?
Through the chair, with the existing permitted uses that are allowed on the property, we would assume that it would have there would be the same similar parking requirements, which would allow for the similar type of business to be conducted. And if there were any deficiencies, yes, the building department would be aware of that and make sure of that during that process. But from our understanding that it should be the same as what's being permitted right now in terms of capacity. So there's no foreseen issues with the parking.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other comments? Okay, we have a recommended motion in front of us that application for zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 3-2025 for the parcel of land owned by SB Properties Limited, legally described as part of Lot 25 Biddulph Concession 4, Parts 4 and 16 on Registered Plan 33R 2206 in the Township of Lucan Biddulph, County of Middlesex, be approved, and that the bylaw be forwarded for council, and the reasons for that follow after Alyssa's report. A mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Hodgins and Deputy Mayor Manders. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. All right, so now we can adjourn our public meeting at 6:33 and reconvene our regular council meeting. A mover and a seconder, please. Deputy Mayor Manders and Councillor Regan, all in favor, and that's carried. Thank you very much, but you're all welcome to stay. You're all welcome to stay. All right. All right, thanks. Good night. I had to do that because the last council meeting you did say that I would say that, so. Okay, so we have no delegations, so we'll go right into the minutes. And the minutes for September 2nd are in front of us. I trust you've all had a chance to go over them. If I can get a mover and a seconder to approve those as circulated unless anything needed to be changed. Councillor Westman and Councillor Hodgins, all in favor, and that's carried. Thank you very much. We have our consent item or consent agenda in front of us, and there's a few items in front of us. I didn't know if anybody wanted to speak to them before I call the motion. There are a couple that I had a couple of comments on, but if council wanted to, Councillor Hodgins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you. I just wanted to bring up one item that was within item 9.2, the county council highlights. So I see that county has developed a policy around community safety zones. So I just thought that was interesting and relevant. So they'll take requests from the lower tier municipalities for county roads that are in those municipalities for community safety zones. So there's a bunch of criteria within the policy, and I think it's something that we should be aware of and thinking about for the county roads that do run through our municipality. I was thinking with the new school on Saintsbury and some concerns we've heard there, maybe that's one that we could look at, but just wanted to flag that for my colleagues' attention.
Thank you. That's the one I had that one flagged too. So Jeff, I know if there's anything you wanted to say, I'll go one step further and this only speaks to county roads. But is this something that we think that maybe we want to consider moving forward in our own municipality? So
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a couple of comments. Chris Trainey, the county engineering did bring this to attention to all the public works managers of the lower tiers. And we did have a little discussion about this and Chris basically had kind of outlined some of the areas that he thought might be the first kind of areas that this would be good to introduce and see how it works. And actually, we did talk about Saintsbury North when the new school goes in and seeing there. So I think there will be some follow-up with the county. I believe down in Dorchester area, they're talking starting, but it definitely is on everybody's radar that this is a good program. And the second thing was should we follow it up in our own communities? Because we have talked about the 40-kilometer-hour zones around our schools, or our school, and our parks. And I think there's something to be said there that this is gaining traction, and I think it's going to have future aspects to it with you never know with photo radar, stuff like that will get introduced into safety zones. So I think this is something that is on our radar, and it should be looked at whether we want to start introducing some of these sections. I think it's not going to lead to drastically lower speeds right off the bat, but I think what it allows us to do is to start looking at how we police these community zones further, or introduce traffic or calming measures and that sort of thing. So yeah, no, I think it's on the county radar, and it's also something that I'd be interested in looking at some of our 40-kilometer-hour zones now.
So just as follow-up, are you thinking of bringing then a policy back, or how are we going to address that?
And through the mayor, I would suggest that a bigger report back on once we see, I mean, some of the lower tiers have already established some, but I think what we want to see is how this is all going to play out through the county, and how it's getting to the next level. And I think if I bring back a report on what's taking place and what could take place in the future, that's when we could talk about what we want to see in a policy and what zones. Because I know this council's had a lot of discussion on speed limits on our town streets. And I still think there's something out there. We're seeing a lot more 40-kilometer-hour speed zones across the residential areas, not just in safety zones. So we got to make sure, if we're going to define a safety zone, that there's a reason why, not just because we want to put 40 kilometers on it. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Yep.
Just one other question or a comment, and I don't expect Jeff to have the answer right now, but do we know with Main Street, like that's, I guess connecting Link and MTO, are we able to look at community safety zones for Main Street, or do we know? Like maybe if we get a report back, that's something that we could look into or consult with MTO on, because that's certainly, our busiest main road, and we got a community center, and it checks a lot of those boxes that county identified in their policy. So I'd be interested to know, what the rules are around that as well.
Yeah, I would, and through the mayor, I don't want to say anything quite yet. I'd rather look that up and bring back information. So in the report, I'll include Main Street areas, particularly the MTO, Richmond Street, and bring that information back in the report.
Is there anything, Deputy Mayor?
Just the Blue Water Recycling's in there, I believe, and then they are looking for council to endorse the attached letter and have it sent to our local MPP. Ron can speak to it a little bit, but it just basically concern of what the suppliers are leaving out for picking up, and that the recycling will be probably diverted into landfill, which isn't good. So it's kind of the main concern. But go ahead, Ron. And if we can do that.
Thank you. So Blue Water basically has drafted up this letter that they've sent to the our local MPP, and they're looking for us to endorse it. And the issue is in regards to the Resource Recovery and Circular Economy Act. They're asking for feedback. So under that act, it's proposed that small businesses and community facilities like our libraries, our community center, things like that aren't going to be part of this program. And certainly Blue Water Recycling has done an excellent job, I think, with us in providing services to everybody, not just residential. There's also concern about the apartments above sort of the downtown business, where the buildings that you see a commercial use on the main floor, and then possibly 1 or 2 floors above that with residential. So, as we've evolved, I guess, with the recycling program, we've dealt with those issues. And I think, while some people may not, it's not perfect, but it does work. And I believe Blue Water is looking at this new legislation, thinking we're taking a big step back and excluding a good segment of the people that we serve right now. So it's a bit of a backward step instead of a forward step. So, like the deputy mayor said, they're looking for Lucan Biddulph Council to endorse this letter and for us to forward it to our MPP.
Yep. Okay, so moved by Deputy Mayor Manders, seconded by Councillor Regan. Is there any discussion on that since we've opened it up? Okay, all in favor? And that's carried. Thanks. I just wanted to highlight, I know it was on the last bit of correspondence, but Ron received a personal email from the Fund Development Coordinator for Middlesex Elgin VON, just reminding us that their VON activity challenge is Saturday, September the 27th, and we're encouraged to attend. So if you can, I am going to try to go. It's on a Saturday. Usually it's on a Sunday, but I am going to try to go. If anybody else would like to go, they would love to see you. Okay. Any other items to be discussed on the consent agenda? Seeing none, then I would ask for a mover and a seconder to receive those items for information, please. Councillor Regan and Deputy Mayor Manders. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, on to the resolutions that we received. I didn't know if anybody wanted to speak to any of those. If not, then I would ask for a mover and a seconder that council receive and file these correspondent items. Councillor Westman and Councillor Hodgins. All in favor? And that's carried. On to committee reports. Blue Water.
Nothing.
CEDC.
Nothing at this time, Madam Mayor.
Lake Huron, we have a meeting in October. Fire boards, we have a Biddulph Blanchard one coming up. And do we have a Lucan one coming up? We don't have one.
I think she's trying to.
She's trying to reschedule that one. That's correct. ABCA, there are some minutes there. Did we have any comment, Councillor Hodgins?
Yeah, just quickly, Madam Mayor, set of draft minutes attached. We are meeting this Thursday. And I just wanted to highlight, you'll see there's a GM's report attached as well. So that's something new that the general manager, Davin Heinbuch's been doing, is providing this sort of an activity report, what's been going on. So it's a good snapshot of the many, many things, good things that ABCA is doing. So that was just at a previous meeting. The board thought it would be good to circulate that as well, just for council's information of all the good stuff going on. But update at the next meeting, our next council meeting from the 18th.
Okay, thank you for that. Parks and Recreation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We are meeting September 18th, 6 o'clock here.
Okay, Trails and Connectivity.
Yeah, we had a meeting scheduled for the 30th of September. Due to a scheduling conflict, it has been moved to the 2nd of October, and it'll be here in the council chambers at 6 p.m.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. We don't have any written reports from any staff. I'll just look to see if there's any verbals from anybody. And then we have one from Jeff. Ben. Public Works.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I'd just like to start by, on the agenda, there was two reports to be done. The first one was for Scotts Drive reconstruction. That one, I'm not going to present. With a little bit of frustration, we've been working on that tender, that design and that tender, since the spring. And, unfortunately, we're still trying to deal with hydro on, having a pole, hydro pole moved, and it is not a guarantee that we can do this project this year and have the hydro pole moved. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to pull that tender out of the package. My second report that I had on the agenda was the winter maintenance plan, and this is something that has been kind of on my radar for a little bit. It should have been presented a few years ago. Winter maintenance plan is is a requirement that we put in place to basically define how we do winter maintenance for our township. A little bit of background, the minimum maintenance standards were established through regulation, and this was to assist municipalities doing maintenance throughout the year. So there's the minimum maintenance standards, but what the winter maintenance plan is to do is to outline how we meet those standards and how we conduct ourselves for the plan. So the winter plan, I won't go through it all, but it's there. It is basically based on what we do. There's really nothing in it that we didn't do last year, and how we did it. But what I want to do for council as I'm presenting this, there's a couple of things I want to go through with council that's important in the plan. And as part of it, the plan, if you go above the minimum maintenance standards, I want council to know that we are above the minimum maintenance standards. So I would point out in the plan, it does say that we do our sidewalks once every 24 hours. Technically, the minimum maintenance standards is once every 48 hours. So, I think that's something that we've been doing. We've been doing it for a number of years, but we do our sidewalks once every 24 hours. The second thing I wanted to point out to council, in the maintenance plan is, I classify technically our rural roads, and I'm just reading this, our rural roads are classified as a category or a class 4 road, and our urban roads are classified as a class 5 road. So we are doing them to the standards and the minimum maintenance standards to those classifications. However, there are some class 6 roads that we have. Class 6 roads are not, minimum maintenance standards don't guide you on your category 6s. So some of our dead ends, some of our cul-de-sacs, there's not enough traffic on them to qualify as the higher class, but we maintain them to the higher class. So, for instance, a road like, say in town, we would have, some of the roads in Clandy there's just not the traffic to classify them as a class 5, but we maintain them as a class 5, meaning that we follow the same procedures we would a class 5 and maintain them at that. Out in the rural area, we do have a dead end over off of Corsie, and we have the dead end on the Denfield. They're not going to have a large volume of traffic on them. So they're actually a class 6, but we treat them as if they're a class 4, meaning that we follow the same procedures and do them in the same time period. I just wanted council to know that, because that is a higher level of service than what the minimum standards dictate. It's not a lot, like, I mean, we still follow, we're still able to do the winter maintenance as we have throughout the number of years I've been here. We're not changing anything. I'm just defining the level of service that we're doing out on the roads. Couple of other things I wanted just to make sure that just so that I can point out to council, a lot of the maintenance plan, of the winter maintenance plan, is defined around winter maintenance, right? So this is not, we still have the minimum maintenance standards for the summer. This is for the winter. For our documentation in it, we talk about citywide. So we use citywide, our application. We do our documentation on citywide for winter monitoring the weather. We do it for our patrolling, and we do it for our activities. We can make, it's GPSed, it's time stamped. You can't fool with it after the fact. You can make notes in it. So a lot of our documentation is done through citywide. We issue all of our employees smartphones, and so they can actually do the documentation right through that app. One of the things that this was through a review that was conducted, and one of the things I'm going to introduce to talk this year is maybe a backup to citywide, a paper backup in case our smartphones are down or there's a reason why our app is not working. I'm going to have the ability to issue some paper backups to that documentation. I would hope that those would never have to be used. The guys have been using citywide now for 2 years, and actually it's working really well. We've had a couple of inquiries through our insurance, which we presented the citywide data, and the answer was we never, the lawsuit or the inquiry stopped at that process. So the other thing that's in the winter plan that's I guess it's not new, but it's kind of new for Lucan Biddulph, and this came up last year when we had our large snowfall, is that we are defining what I shouldn't say that. We're not defining what a significant weather event is. We're defining our ability to declare a significant weather event. So if we have an issue and there's a weather event and we know we can't meet our maintenance plan, then we can issue a significant weather event, which then will bring our roads into a state of repair until the event is over, and we can meet the timelines that are defined in the minimum maintenance standards. So that's new. We've always known it's been there. We just haven't really put the documentation in place to use it on a regular basis. So that's also in the plan. That's kind of that's the 4 things I wanted to point out. This is a document that will be changing as we go. So if there's ever a need to change it, or after a winter event or after a winter season, and we think we want to do something different, if council wants to talk about doing something different, this plan is not something that it can evolve, and it can change. As we grow, we may add more units. We may decide that we want to do different levels of service. That's all available. So this document does not confine us for the future. It's a document that we're going to use for this winter, and we'll continue to evolve it as we go.
Okay, thank you for that, Jeff. Certainly on a day like today, it's hard to think about a major winter event. Questions or comments? Councillor Regan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If I may, thanks, Jeff. Love reading your reports. I do have a question though about minimum maintenance standards and I know it's provincially legislated. So with the number of severe and significant weather events we're going to have, and they become more and more severe as we've seen over the last few years. I'm just wondering, is there any talk about changing those minimum standards? Or does it have to just do with the classification of roads? And like what I'm hearing is that we're treating, you know, like a level like a 6, like a 4, and it's wonderful that we're able to do that. I'm just wondering if there's any thought about again just changing the minimum standards changing from the province.
Yeah, through the mayor, there's always a review of the minimum maintenance standards. They're always looking at what's working and what's not working and what is missing from there. For instance, if you read the minimum maintenance standards, there's a lot of information now on trails and sidewalks that, you know, when this first started, we're not a part of it, but it's really growing. So it's always changing, but the weather events themselves, we have to be careful because as a municipality, we have to plan our maintenance around snow. So we can't use the significant weather event as a crutch and keep going to it, you know, multiple times throughout the year, because that would indicate that our winter program is not functioning as it should. So, you know, we'd have to look at that. You know, we still have to realize we're in Canada and we have to have a winter program that can meet the basic needs. If the winter is getting more severe, then that would indicate that we maybe should have to pick up our winter program and how we do things. I think the real key to the significant event is what's the reason why we can't meet the minimum maintenance standards? Why is the timelines not being met? Is it because we don't have enough men or equipment? Or is it because we're having breakdowns? Or is it just because the event itself is so severe? I would hope it's because the event's so severe is the reason why we've declared the event. If it's because we don't have enough men or equipment, or staff, I should say, if we don't have enough men, then we haven't done our job planning out the maintenance program. So.
Follow up. No, thank you, Jeff. Now, what I was wondering too is you know, where we live, you know, you get streamers off the lake and it can be snowing between Clendevoy and Elginfield, and everywhere else it's green. And I'm just wondering if the plan, and I don't know if maybe I missed it, but does the plan also include how we can call in other people and other municipalities to help us out?
Yeah, I think it's a good point. I did not put in calling in other municipalities. Maybe that's something that should be added, although it's difficult to know how you word that. You know, North Middlesex certainly would help us if they could. But I don't know, I can't put in the plan who would help. I know the county would provide assistance if we required it. But at the same time, our maintenance plan is built around our equipment, not what we do during a significant weather event. So if we have to bring in contractors and loaders and stuff like that to meet a significant weather event, we can do that. It's this plan generally outlines how we do our winter maintenance and how we get back, how we meet those standards.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thanks, Jeff.
Any other comment or question on that? Councillor Hodgins?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a couple comments. Just wanted to thank Jeff for the report, you know, very timely. It doesn't seem like it with the weather right now, but it's certainly going to be here before we know it. I think it's great that we're putting this program in writing, just for the future and moving forward. And as people retire or move to different jobs, it's good to have a plan in place. We're not starting from scratch anytime. So it's great for the future. Great about the significant weather event. I know some of us were asking about that last winter when we had that major snowfall, and just, how do we keep up with it? So good to see we got that procedure in place for that. And, it's good. You mentioned that it's going to be a bit of a living document and it's going to be changed and updated as we go and as we learn from things or as we, as our program evolves. So just great to hear that as well. So just wanted to say those comments. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hodgins. Any other comment or questions? Yeah, Jeff, I'll just echo what Councillor Hodgins said. I think it's a great report, and certainly, I mean, last year, I think, you know, it was a traditional winter, one that we haven't had in quite some time, but I think it brought up some questions about these significant events. And anyways, I really do appreciate the work that's gone into it. So thank you for that. I just have one question, and that's on the sidewalks. So in the report, it says, you know, that the clearance time will be like within 48 hours. So that's what we're going to be held to, even though we do it every 24 hours, because this is our winter maintenance plan. In the event that there's something that happens, as long as you're getting to them within 48 hours, we're okay.
And ma'am, that's a good question. So I would say that, yeah, and this is where I'm asking council to think about this, is actually no. I'm presenting that we do our sidewalks once every 24 hours. That's what we have been doing. The minimum maintenance standards I put in there at 48 to show you that if we want to plan our resources around 48, we can. But this township has, for a number of years, asked that the Public Works Department clear the snow every 24, or I shouldn't clear the snow. They attempt to do winter maintenance on the sidewalks once every 24 hours. So it's in the report, or it's in the plan that we will do the sidewalks once every 24 hours. I think in the paragraph, and there's a paragraph that talks about operation, and in it, it talks about how we perform our operations, and you will see in it, where is it? Yeah, so, oh, no, that's the driver. Oh, page 10, last paragraph, the sidewalk unit, halfway through, all machines push snow or blow snow depending on the conditions. Sidewalks are maintained once every 24 hours. So if, again, I mean, if that's something council does not want to put in writing, this is a draft form, and this is why I bring it to council today. We still have time to make adjustments and take back council and feedback from council. I certainly can change that. But right now, that's what our maintenance has been designed around, as 24 hours.
And given last year, I mean, I know that there was issues with equipment, but let's just take that out. Did you feel that on the whole, you were able to keep that standard of 24 hours?
Yeah, I think what's going to happen as we grow our sidewalks, there's going to be the need for a second sidewalk machine, and that'll be in a budget discussion this coming year. So, right now, I'm still comfortable with the 24 hours. It is a lot of work for the staff. It's getting to a point where it is getting a lot of work coming in on every day to do the sidewalks. But I mean, you know, there is the possibility, and there's other municipalities that are out there that do the 48, which means some of the sidewalks won't get done on Saturday. They'll come in and get done on Sunday, or they won't get done on Monday. They'll get done on Tuesday. And it takes 48 hours. That is an option for council, and that's why I present it. That's why I wanted to make sure council was aware of that we can set up winter maintenance of the sidewalks to 48 hours. Madam Mayor, and again, maybe this is a lot of, take some time to think about it. Certainly, you know, I could, we could let it digest and take comments back about it.
When we say that this municipality is always done 24 hours, I guess, when was the last time we realistically looked at that level of service?
Yeah.
Ron?
And maybe Ron, I would say that, since I've come, and that there's been a requirement to get this stuff like a routine, then that's where the 24 hours have come in, because there has been some thinking in the past, and this goes past all municipalities, that we do it on Monday to Friday, but we don't have to do it on Saturday, Sunday. And that doesn't make any sense, because what's the difference between a Sunday and a Monday? Just because it's called a weekend. So there has been that general, we have to get past that point that the weekdays are all equal. And so, yeah, we do them Monday to Friday, 24, we do them once every day, but then all of a sudden we didn't do them on the weekends. That didn't make a lot of sense.
So Madam Mayor, I was just gonna make a comment. Sort of in the past, and I'm talking in the last 25 years, we've been able to generally do it every 24 hours. We've been able to meet that, even though we didn't have to, we have met that. So if we were to change, if council wanted to change that to 48 hours, you really have to change it to 48 hours, but that's going to change the level of service. And I think you're going to, I think we better expect some backlash, because there's going to be people who go, well, what happened here? There's going to be reasons if that's what council chooses to go that route. It would push off, the purchase of another sidewalk machine, for example. However, I think it's a level of service that the residents need to communicate to council. Is that something that they're willing to pay for that extra service? And to Jeff's point, to do it every other day, Saturday and Sunday, you might argue, well, there's probably more people going to be using the sidewalks on a Saturday and a Sunday because it is the weekend, more so than during the week, potentially. So I don't know. I think there's services that people are willing to pay for. And I think if we suddenly changed service standards, we could run into a lot more potential slips and falls. And even though we may win those, you're still going to get dragged through all that. Is it really worth it at the end of the day? And I guess that's the question that I would pose to council. I think the 24-hour standard is a good standard. I think we can 9 times out of 10 meet that standard. And I think that's where we're coming from when Jeff presents this to council.
Deputy Mayor Manders.
I just didn't know too for input or I don't even know if it makes sense a bit, is the like on paper having 48 hours on paper, that's the minimum standard we need to do from maybe getting input from our insurance company. But we do maintain 24 hours, but on paper, maybe, having 48 hours, that is the provincial minimum standard. And again, I'm looking at that from representing all the constituents, but off of what protects them the best. And I know we can always be named in a lawsuit and everything else, but the Ontario government, so I'm not saying to reduce our standard. I'm saying we should put it at 24 hours, but should we be, on paper, having the provincial policy on there on paper, 48 hours? I don't know how that would look, but anyways.
Yeah, no, Councillor Hodgson is an expert at this, so anyways, one thing I would mention is that when the minimum maintenance standards did start, they did talk about how a municipality should try to define what they're doing. And if they want to go above the minimum maintenance standards, that's fine. Just put that as your standard. If you're not going to do it, and yet people can prove that you're doing it above the standard most of the time, but then all of a sudden one time you don't do it, and there's an indication that you were providing a higher service, I'm not sure that would be a question, a legal question that I would worry about. I'm just going by what we normally do, but maybe I'd open it to Councillor Hodgins.
Interesting discussion. And I was gonna say something along the same lines as Deputy Mayor's comments. And like, I'm a bit cautious, I think, about of us going above and beyond what the minimum maintenance standards say, and whether we could get held to that higher standard. And does it make most sense to have it written in the document that we would do the 48-hour turnaround? And I'm going through the document now. There are some tables in there where it does say 48 hours. So we've kind of got it almost both ways in there potentially. Where then there's like the statement on page 10 that Jeff mentioned where it says it'll be done once per day. So yeah, my thoughts were similar to what Deputy Mayor was saying there. And just, yeah, I'm just cautious about us overcommitting and then running into challenges there. But, if we could sort of maintain the status quo in our operations, then that'd be good. But it is a lot of information to digest as well. So I'm not sure what everyone else around the table thinks, whether just accept for information now or confirm a few things.
That's what I was going to suggest because it is a lot, and it's one thing to receive it in the agenda, but then to have the discussion. I know personally, I'd probably like to just receive it and then bring it back to the next council meeting, or to Councillor Hodgins' point, I guess that's where I was getting confused because the tables do say 48 hours. So maybe if we can go back and kind of have some offline discussions, and maybe council can kind of think about it, because certainly I kind of think about that you say it's 48, but provide 24. But then Jeff, that what you said, actually, it does make sense. If you're providing 24 and then you don't, and something happens and it can be proved, then, so yeah, just I think a lot to digest. Are there any other comments? So if I'm looking at council, we do have a motion, but would there be somebody that would be willing to just to accept it and have it brought back for further discussion? Make that motion. Would that be the proper motion? Okay, so Councillor Hodgins and Deputy Mayor Manders. Jeff, is there anything
Yeah,
you want to add before I call the vote?
Madam Mayor, this is good because this is something new for this township, and it is important, and it is a defining document. Like, we do have a road supervisor and myself that understand it pretty thoroughly, but that doesn't necessarily, there's not going to be new people that aren't going to pick this document up and say, okay, how are we doing our winter maintenance? So no, that's why I wanted to get it to council today so that we could have a further discussion if we needed to. So
Because I think I did see it needed to be adopted for October 1st, but I guess if I think we meet on the 2nd or no, we meet on the 7th, right? So I think that's probably okay.
oh yeah, that's fine. Their winter season will not start till later on in the season. So as long as we have it in place before the winter season, we're
Yes, those going on warmer climates in October. Okay, so there is a motion on the floor to bring it back, receive it for information and bring it back. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. Did you have anything else verbal to bring up, Jeff?
No, I just maybe update a little bit on some of the construction because I know there's a lot of talk through the community. Water Street is now open, basically is complete. There'll be some cleanup throughout the fall on a couple of items, and the second lift of pavement will go in next year. Saintsbury, the servicing for Timber Ridge is well underway. We're hoping that pavement goes down next week. And that by next week we can start looking at opening the road to vehicular traffic. We did start the Fallon bridge replacement, which is another detour in the area. Unfortunately, that was just the timing of it is where it worked out in this time of the year. It'll be completed again prior to, we'll still need pavement down, so it will be completed before the end of the year. And that's basically just give council a bit of an update.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Just a couple notes, and I don't usually comment on construction projects because I don't know anything about them. But we did have a resident in that lives on Sainsbury that spoke quite highly about the crew that was in front of their house and how they were accommodating in and out and being very helpful. So that was great to hear. And now, as a resident in Lucan, the Water Street project, I just have to say, I was just impressed with the contractor and how they kept the site incredibly clean and organized, and they seem to have a good handle on moving equipment. I know it was, very disruptive to the residents on Water Street, but I think as a whole, just watching it all unfold, I thought it went very well and was managed extremely well.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I'd like to say too that the residents play an important role too. And the communication goes both ways. And I'd like to thank the people on Water Street for working with the construction crews too. They did a great job over there, and I think it's a combination of both things. Yeah.
Thanks. Okay, on to other business. We have one item there in business arising, and I believe that will be addressed in October. Anything else that, if you want anything put on business arising, certainly let Tina know. Any notices of motion? Council comments? Nothing? Nothing. Oh,
Actually, I just wanted to let everybody know that I was at the Middlesex plowing match. Drove a tractor for the very first time. There were no injuries or damage. No injuries or damage. I think I represented well.
we should have brought the picture up. It should have been included in the agenda. Yes.
No, it was actually.
Congratulations.
Never did it before, so it was a new experience. I may have to go again.
There you go.
next year.
Yeah, you can go next year. I believe that I saw the email come out. I believe that past warden Curtis Smith won the VIP. I thought I saw that.
I may not
Those
agree with that,
standings.
so.
Thank you. I think maybe you got an honorable mention.
Okay, well, that's all right.
So,
Anyway, thank you.
okay, thank you. And thank you for going.
Oh,
That was awesome.
certainly.
Great. Any other council comments? Okay, seeing none, then we have 3 bylaws in front of us. So the motion, oh, that's right, exactly. So we're striking the winter maintenance one. So we have 2. So then will the confirming one become 33, right? So the confirming one then becomes 33. So there's just the 2, the confirming bylaw and then the zoning bylaw for the Heenan Court property. So I'll take 34 out. So the motion will be that bylaws 33-2025 and 204-2025 be read a first, second, third, and final time and be adopted. A mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Regan and Councillor Westman. All in favor? And that's carried. And a motion to adjourn the meeting at 19 minutes after 7. A mover and a seconder. Councillor Regan and Deputy Mayor Manders. All in